Hey y'all, No here. Well, surprise, I thought of one more thing that I could share with you that might be of help to you. Now, I've looked at a lot of videos that other YouTubers have made about vans, about living in vans, and so I kind of made a list of some things that a lot of folks cover, and they're important things like how to build a van, how to go to the bathroom, how to take a shower, how to find a place to park, how to protect yourself, how to get internet, how to get mail, even how to vote. But what I don't see many people talking about is one of my favorite subjects, eating. So, uh, as I started traveling in the van, I slowly came up with ideas about how to make meals, prepare meals, clean up after meals, and things like that. So, with that said, I finally came up with 7 recipes that I rotate through each week. Uh, Different recipes each day, sometimes a different order, but usually I go in the same order. I've just got a deck of recipes and I just shuffle them, until I get to the top of the deck again. So, what I'm going to do is just share the 7 recipes that I use when I'm traveling, and hopefully, maybe you'll like some of them. Maybe they'll give you some inspiration, but at least maybe you'll be able to say after this video, well, finally somebody took the time to try to help me figure out how to make meals while I'm traveling. So let's get into it. I start my meal each night with a salad, and I use 3 ingredients: cauliflower, broccoli, and a carrot. I don't use lettuce. Lettuce is mostly water, has very little food value. Uh, People think that you have to have lettuce to have a salad, but you really don't. And so I feel like the salad I make is pretty healthy, and just a good habit to get into, really. Now, here's a tool that you can use. This has helped me out a bunch. All it is a kitchen scale. And what I've done, I found a bowl that will hold the amount of ingredients that I need for my salad. And so what that actually equaled out to, so I guess you could say the recipe for my salad each night is 4 ounces of cauliflower, 4 ounces of broccoli, and 1 carrot. And the advantage that you have to using the scale like this is that you don't run out of one ingredient all at one time. So what I'm doing is just putting a little bit of cauliflower on the scale until it comes up to 4 ounces. And that's off a little bit. The good news is that I've got 2 pounds of broccoli, but I've got more than 2 pounds of cauliflower. Oh yeah, that's right on 4 ounces. Okay, so I'm gonna take these flowerets out, and these are actually, I didn't buy this cauliflower pre-cut. I bought 2 heads of cauliflower and made my own flowerets. And even at home, I repackage my salad ingredients so that I can control the amount of moisture
in the bag, because the packaging that you buy vegetables in usually is not ventilated at all, so you get condensation inside the package, and condensation is one of the root causes of spoilage. Okay, that's 4 ounces of broccoli. You see, that is the whole reason why it's a good idea to weigh your ingredients. Because if you look at the volume of the broccoli versus the volume of the cauliflower, it looks like you got twice as much broccoli as you do cauliflower. But when you weigh them, you find out they're both the same weight. All right, so not rocket science after you get everything weighed up. Just going to chop that up into smaller pieces. Now the beauty of you making a salad and eating raw vegetables, of course, number one, when you cook vegetables, it breaks down some of the vitamins, and so maybe not quite as healthy. But then the other thing is, if you cook vegetables, then you got some type of pan that you're going to have to clean up, which is going to use water, which is going to use paper towels probably to dry off the utensils that you use. So, learn to like salads, because it sure does make things easier on the preparation, easier on the cleanup too. All right, and I don't weigh the carrots because carrots are relatively the same size when you buy them. Sometimes you get a big one or a small one, but carrot a day is a good way to get enough vitamin A and beta carotene and lots of other vitamins. So I'm going to put the carrots in like that. And then I use olive oil and red wine vinegar to make my dressing. But I don't mix them together because they don't mix very well, and so what I do, instead of mixing them together in one bottle, what I actually do is use up the vinegar in one bottle and then fill it up with olive oil. So just shake a little olive oil on there like that. And then just try to put an equal amount of vinegar. And if you don't like oil and vinegar dressing, use whatever you like. What I found is it's cheap, it's easy, there's nothing to clean up. You can use these bottles over and over. So anyway, that's how I begin my meal each night. So hope that helps you out some, gives you some ideas. You may not like the ingredients I like, but find the things you like. Get yourself a kitchen scale and a bowl that's the right size, and be healthy. Okay, this is the first of the 7 recipes I'm going to share with you. Read the ingredients we're going to be using. Going to be using 7 ounces of smoked sausage, 6 mini peppers, some pepper jack cheese, and tortilla. I call this sausage and pepper burritos. So we're going to start with 6 mini peppers. And I've got 3 different colors, red, orange, and yellow. So I'm going to use 2 of each color. So we're going to start with the peppers, and I'm going to start by taking the stems off. I'm not cooking this in the van because it's close to 100 degrees outside today, so preparing these meals indoors, but I'm using the same equipment. I'm using my butane stove and the same pots and pans and utensils as I would use in the van. Okay, so got the stems pulled off. So we're just going to slice these up. And you want to slice them pretty thinly, because that's going to help them to saute faster and use less butane and less oil too, for that matter. You'll get a few seeds mixed in with your peppers. That's okay. The seeds will not change the taste. And remember, in a van, you want to minimize what you have to throw away as much as possible. So if you can eat the seeds, that means you don't have to throw them in the trash, and it means less trash to have to dispose of. Right, got those sliced up. So we're just going to use a little bit of olive oil, and we want to use as little as we can get away with, because if we have oil left over in the pan, when we finish, that's all we're going to have to deal with. So we want to have just the right amount, but not have any left over. All right, so we're turning the flame up pretty low to save on butane. And we're going to put our peppers in the skillet and let them start to saute. Probably going to need a little bit more oil than that. So, but anyway, start out with a little bit, and if it's not enough, you can add more later on. And while that's warming up and starting to saute, I use this Hillshire Farms smoked sausage. I like the Cajun style. I think it's got a great flavor to it. And I'm going to show you the best and easiest way to open this package. Because we're not going to use the whole thing. We're only going to use half of it. So what we're going to do is just cut through the plastic right there. And that lets that open up just a bit. And then what we can do is squeeze it from the bottom. That gets the sausage started coming out. And then when you put it in the refrigerator, you're going to put it in the refrigerator with this end down so that none of this juice runs out this opening in the top. Alright, so while our peppers are starting to cook, just going to cut our sausage like that and like that. And then we're going to take this big long section and we're going to cut it in half. And then we're going to cut that half in half. And then we're going to dice that up. You might have just the right amount of oil. Do the same thing with this other long piece. These curvy pieces aren't so easy to dice up. That's why I'm doing them separately. It's kind of hard to cut around a curve. We're going to dice them up about the same size. You can also make these into fajitas. If you don't have burrito size tortilla. I like to make the burrito size because I tend to spill, and when I roll them into a burrito, I don't spill as easily as with a fajita. And what we're waiting for with our peppers is for them to kind of start to get limp. You know when they're done when you take your spoon and cut through the pepper all the way, and it's not hard to cut. just got to be patient and let them cook. Oops, that one's trying to get away. Okay, that's starting to get tender. I think that's just about right. So they're not completely done yet. But what I'm going to do next is add the sausage. It's going to kind of let the flavor of the sausage and the pepper blend together. The sausage is actually pre-cooked. It's not raw. I mean, you could eat it without cooking it, but I like to kind of brown it a little bit. It kind of gives it a better texture and kind of helps the flavor of the pepper and the sausage to blend together. Hope this doesn't make you too hungry watching this video, because it's sure making me hungry. Alright, so we'll let that continue to cook. And then I'm going to get my tortilla ready. Alright, so while that is continuing to cook, okay, so just got some shredded pepper jack cheese. I'm just going to spread some of that on the tortilla. It might be a little bit more than I really needed. I always tend to go overboard with cheese. The sausage brown just a little bit more. This usually makes a couple of burritos, depending on how much I put in each burrito. So what I usually try to do is just kind of use half for the first burrito and then the other half for the second burrito. Got some sausage and pepper left over. After 2 burritos, but it's not enough to make 3. There's no law that says you can't just eat this pepper and sausage without tortilla. Alright, I think that's pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is turn the gas off and just leave it. I'm going to leave it on the stove so that it will continue to cook as it cools. So we want to use every bit of heat we get from the stove. So we're going to turn the gas off before it's 100% done, and then let that last little bit of heat that's coming from the stove do its work. All of these recipes I'm going to be showing you, obviously you can make modifications. I mean, you could add some jalapenos to this mixture, or onions, or whatever you like. But I've tried to keep the recipes as simple as possible. If you buy onions or jalapenos or green peppers, or the more ingredients you have, the more ingredients that has to fit in the refrigerator, and the more ingredients that you have to clean up after. Alright, so we're going to let that cool, and then while that's cooling, I'm going to clean the stove off a little bit because the sausage really tends to splatter. So we can use the time that our mixture is cooling to wipe this off, because it's much easier to wipe off when it's hot or warm than when the grease cools. Takes less detergent too. I'm wiping this off when it's hot. Paper towel will just about soak up all the grease. But if you wait till it's cool, then you're going to need some detergent to cut the grease. Yeah, that's a pretty good start right there. All right, so, and I'm going to warn you up front, I'm probably the world's worst burrito roller. So this doesn't look pretty. Hopefully you can roll a burrito a little more neatly than I can. Okay, that looks like it's about half. Yeah, I could have done better on how much oil I used. It's just hard to saute something without a little bit of depth of oil in the skillet. All right, so here goes. So I apologize in advance for my burrito rolling skills. Good. Very good. Bon appetit. This recipe is one of the simplest ones that I use. It's just beans, rice, and cornbread. Now, the problem that you have with vegetable proteins is that no one vegetable contains all of the essential amino acids that our bodies require. But when you mix beans, rice, and corn together, that combination supplies all the essential amino acids. So what I use is just a package of Knorr Spanish rice. So I'm gonna put 2 cups of water in a saucepan. I think this is a 2-quart saucepan. And we're going to bring that to a slow boil. Even though I'm boiling this pan of water, I still keep my flame low so that I use every BTU in the can of butane that's available. If it turns up on high, then the water is going to heat up fast and end up getting hotter than 212 degrees. So it takes a little bit more time to bring the water to a boil slowly, but it'll save you butane by doing it that way. All right, while we're waiting for that to come to a boil, just use these Lux pinto beans. And then have these small corn tortilla. So it's important that you get corn tortilla, because if you get flour tortilla, then you're not guaranteed to get all the essential amino acids. I'm going to try not to edit this meal down. It's going to get a little boring. But this way, if I don't edit out the boiling time, it gives you an idea of how much time to allow to prepare the meal. It's not gonna be much longer. I'm already starting to see some bubbles forming. You wouldn't necessarily have to use the Spanish rice. I think it has a good flavor. Kind of goes well with the pinto beans. But any rice that you use is going to have the amino acids that you need that are going to mix with the corn and the beans. This is a pretty easy way. It's already pre-measured and everything, so you don't have to worry about measuring out how much rice you use or anything like that, because this packaged rice is going to be the same every time, and it's pretty reasonably priced. You can get a package of this for probably under $2, I would suspect. All right, we've got a pretty good boil going now, so we're going to add our rice. And I'm leaving my heat at the same setting because I didn't turn it up very high to start with. So now it's just going to kind of simmer till the rice absorbs that water. should be glad you can't smell what I'm smelling, because this really smells wonderful as it's cooking. Now this particular recipe makes a lot, okay, so you might want to save this recipe for a night when you're really hungry. Because this is a 15-ounce can of beans. It's 5 ounces of dry rice. So you're going to get roughly 3 to 4 cups of rice and 2 cups of beans probably. And that takes a pretty big stomach to hold that. Plus your tortilla that you're going to add to it. So it's a pretty simple meal, but it's a very hearty meal. You're going to let your rice cook down until most of the liquid has absorbed into the rice. Starting to get close now, so I'm going to carefully take a little sample and see if it's soft yet. Yeah, that's pretty good. So you can check your video to see how many minutes that was. Now the beans are already cooked, so you don't really have to allow any time for the beans to cook. I'm not going to drain anything off the can because that's the way you're going to do it in the van, because you don't want to have to throw that away. If you swallow it, that's the easiest way to dispose of it. And the healthiest, I suppose, too. All right, so I'm going to stir that up good. Ooh, that looks good. Let it simmer for just a little bit longer. Now, the thing I like about these Lux beans is that the top of the can and the bottom of the can are the same. So, to save space in our trash can, we're going to take this top of the can, put it back on so nothing runs out of the can when we turn it upside down. And then we're going to cut the bottom out of the can. Let's see if I got it there. Alright, and then what we got to do is take the can, smash it flat, put the top and the bottom on the inside. And that way takes up almost no space in your trash can, which is always a good thing. Alright, I think that's done pretty good. Alright, so now we're going to set it aside and let it cool. And because you're traveling solo, if you were like me, do you put this on a plate and eat it? No. Do you pour it in a bowl and eat it? No. You eat it out of the pan. Takes it a little longer to cool down, but well worth it when you consider that's one less thing that you're going to have to wash. Now, I use this nice plastic spoon when I'm eating out of the pan because I always get a non-stick frying pan and saucepan. So make sure you use a plastic spoon to eat out of the pan with. That way you won't scratch up this finish in your saucepan. Alright, and you can choose which way you prefer to eat your tortilla. Honestly, you could even use like corn chips and eat your beans and rice with a chip. Chips aren't quite as healthy as this corn tortilla. The corn tortilla is not unhealthy. It has some oil in it, but not as much as corn chips would. So I'm just going to crumble some of that up in there, which will in turn remove some of the heat. So just use whatever amount that you like. I usually use 2 or 3. See how that looks. Yeah, I think 2 will be enough. Okay, so very simple, easy recipe. You can run the video and see how many minutes it actually took me to cook that. not as long as it seems like it is while you're doing it. So anyway, maybe save this recipe for a night when you're really hungry, because it is really filling. So I hope you enjoy that. Next recipe is something that I loosely call chicken parmesan. It's not really like chicken parmesan that you would normally think of, because for this chicken parmesan, we're going to use canned chicken breast, and we'll need a 6-ounce can of tomato paste, package of this McCormick spaghetti sauce mix, and mozzarella cheese instead of Parmesan. You can use Parmesan if you like. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is to mix the sauce. So to do that, I'm going to open up the chicken. And I'm going to pour off the broth. It's almost a full cup in that can. So now I'm going to add water to that to bring it on up to a cup. And then I'm going to add another half cup of water. And then next I'm going to open the tomato paste. Trick to doing this, what you're going to do is cut the top on one end, and then we're going to cut the top on the other end. Helps if you have one of these fancy can openers that doesn't leave an edge on the can. The reason I cut off the top and the bottom is that the tomato paste doesn't come out very easily. So what we're going to do is take a spoon and push it out instead of trying to spoon it out. So we just keep pushing, and as you push it, you can kind of scrape along the sides so that you don't leave any in the can. Because whatever you leave in the can, that's what you're going to have to smell for a couple of days in your trash, probably. Yeah, that worked pretty good, and don't know if you can see inside there or not, but just about all came out. And you'll notice I have not started the stove yet, so what I'm going to do is, before I turn the flame on, I'm going to try to mix this together in the water as much as I can. Okay, not too many lumps left in that. the spaghetti sauce mix. And this is really handy stuff for like Italian type recipes because this little package takes up a lot less space than a jar of spaghetti sauce. Obviously, a jar of spaghetti sauce, if you drop it, it's going to break. That package won't break. And honestly, I can't tell a lot of difference between the spaghetti sauce mix and the jar spaghetti sauce. Okay, so that's mixing together pretty well. So now I'm going to turn on the heat, and then I'm going to cook this until it thickens up. The secret to this is using a can of tomato paste. That's really helps to thicken the sauce up. Okay, I think I've got most of the lumps out of that. And depending on how thick you like your sauce, you can add water or use less water. And that's already starting to bubble some. Alright, so now we're going to kind of mash this up a little bit, break down some of the chunks in the chicken. Alright, we're going to add the chicken. And when this is cooking, you'll think that it's going to be too thin. What we're going to do now is add a bunch of mozzarella cheese, and that's going to thicken it up some more. And stir that cheese in. It's looking about right. I think I'll put just a little bit more cheese. And I think I'll even turn the heat off now so that it'll be cooling off at the same time we melt the last cheese. So ended up with about a cup and a half of broth and water combined. The reason I use the broth instead of water is if you don't use it, you're going to have to get rid of it. So the easiest way to get rid of it is to consume it in your body. And that didn't take very long at all. I'm going to take it off and let it cool now. And we're going to dispose of the can by smashing it down. Put the top and bottom inside. And then it doesn't take up much space in your trash can. Unfortunately, this can that the chicken comes in with the pull-off top, we can't cut the bottom out of it. So what you want to do when you put the can in your trash can is make sure you put it with the mouth facing up. Then you can put other trash inside of the can so that it doesn't take up so much space. Alright, so it'll take a while for that to cool, but then it's not real beautiful to look at, but it's pretty filling and doesn't taste too bad either. The next recipe is going to look very similar to a previous recipe that we've covered. It's another burrito recipe. It's pretty similar to the sausage and pepper burrito, but tonight it's going to be a Spanish rice and smoked sausage burrito. So again, using our old friend, the Norse Spanish rice. So I'm going to start that first. In this one, we're going to use a cup and a half of water. And we'll start that heating up. And just like we did with the pepper and sausage burrito, we're going to use the Cajun spice smoked sausage from Hillshire Farms. Going to use the same amount. And we're going to prepare this sausage just like we did for the pepper and sausage burrito. So we're gonna split it in half. And split that half in half. Dice that up. This is another meal that's going to be pretty filling, pretty hearty. Maybe even pretty heavy if you get down to it. So this may be another recipe that you want to save for night when you're really hungry. And unlike the pepper and burrito recipe that I showed you earlier, that normally get 2 burritos out of, this particular recipe generally speaking will make at least 3 burritos, and sometimes 3.5. Just depends on how you load them up. Alright, so our water's starting to boil. We're going to add in our Spanish rice. Okay, so while that's cooking, I'm going to tidy up just a little bit, put my sausages back in the refrigerator and get my tortilla. I haven't mentioned this already. All the ingredients that I'm using in these 7 recipes are readily available at Walmart. I did it on purpose because probably more Walmart stores in this country than any other store, and so they tend to, you know, their grocery section, especially in most stores, it's almost identical in every store. So I just went with recipes that I knew I could count on being able to find the ingredients when and where I needed them. This is the type tortilla that I usually use. It's La Banderita. It's a flour tortilla. They roll pretty good, and again, you can always find them at Walmart, no matter what Walmart you're in. Even when I was in Anchorage, Alaska, they had these particular tortillas. The other ingredient that we're going to be using is some more pepper jack cheese, just like we used on the sausage and pepper burritos. Give that a little tenderness test to see if our rice is getting done. Still just a little bit al dente. I like my rice soft, not crunchy. Alright, we're going to go ahead and add the sausage to that mixture. Let those flavors start blending together. Depending on the altitude that you are at, you may need to modify the amount of water that you use to cook rice and the different ingredients that we're using in these recipes, because it does affect the boiling point of water when you're at higher altitudes. So I'm going to get tortilla ready. And we're going to do it just like we did on the pepper and sausage burrito. Just going to spread a little pepper jack out on the tortilla before we start. Okay. Just about right. Take this off the heat and let it cool just a bit before we put it on the tortilla. Otherwise, we may not be able to pick up the burrito once we fill it. This would be where if you have a fan in your van, this would be where you would take your pan and set it over in front of the fan, let the fan blow some air on it. Still a little bit on the steamy side, but we'll give it a try. Just gonna spoon some of our mixture on there. That's probably about all I can fit into a burrito. I always try to put too much. All right, so let's see if my burrito rolling skills have improved any. Seems like I do it a different way every time that I do one. Well, I'll let you be the judge whether you think I've improved or not. Still good. Next recipe is going to be simply grilled cheese sandwiches. It's pretty simple to make, but this recipe for me is the one that probably I'm not the most skilled at, so I hope it turns out okay and I don't burn it. So there's several ingredients. Obviously, first ingredient is bread. I like whole wheat bread. It's a little bit healthier than white bread, they say, but choose whichever you like. Next ingredient that I really like is this Sargento cheddar cheese slices. It's a good bit more expensive than like your Kraft singles that come wrapped in the cellophane, but I think the flavor is just a lot better than the cellophane wrapped type cheese, but either one is going to be good. Next ingredient is this Parquet squeezed margarine. The reason I use the margarine, especially the squeezed margarine, is that it doesn't have to be refrigerated. When you buy it, you'll find it in the refrigerated section with the butter and margarine and things like that. But It's actually made of vegetable oil, so it won't spoil as long as you keep it at like room temperature. It may separate a little bit, so you'll need to shake it up before you use it. Now here's my secret ingredient, bacon. Anything with bacon on it is better than anything without bacon on it. So with all that said, with all the ingredients shown, let's get into how I actually make it. And you've probably made grilled cheese sandwiches before. If you feel like you know how to make this better than me, which you may do, feel free to skip on to the next recipe. Okay, so I used 2 slices of cheese. And then the reason I use the fully cooked bacon is because it's just so much easier to clean up. You don't have to worry about having grease left over to dispose of. It is more expensive, and I kind of use it sparingly, but you know, if it's something you're only going to have once a week, then splurge a little bit. Okay, so this is about the amount of bacon that you get in this size package. It is a 2.5 ounce package, so it sounds like it's not very much, but since it's pre-cooked, you know, you're going to be eating everything that is in the package. There's no grease to pour off or waste or anything like that. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 strips of bacon. And what I'm going to do is just cut these in half so that the bacon will fit on the sandwich. So I'm going to just like this. All right, that's a lot of bacon. Okay, so got bacon sandwiched between 2 pieces of cheese. And we're going to keep our heat down really low, because once this gets started, things move kind of quickly. Just going to put a good coating of margarine in the skillet. And then we're going to help the bread to kind of soak up the margarine. And I've tried to figure out how to best tell when it's time to flip the sandwich over. Ideally, you'd like to brown it on one side, flip it over, and brown it on the other side. Seem to never get it right, but what I have found that helps is to kind of smash the sandwich down into the margarine. Kind of helps the cheese to melt too. So we're going to let that grill for about a minute. And then I'm going to take a peek under. Nope, it's not ready yet. So we're going to go for another minute. So if I burn this thing, I'm going to have to, number one, eat a burnt sandwich and then shoot this all over again. All right, almost time to turn it over. So I'm going to add a little more margarine. Actually, I'm going to just put some on the bread itself. And let's see what it looks like. Hey, pretty good. And then I set our stopwatch for another minute. Now, if you want a little bit healthier grilled cheese sandwich, I'm not sure anything with that much bacon on it can be healthier or can be healthy, but you can also use olive oil instead of the squeezed margarine. Now, just to be aware, these cooking times are very approximate because stoves can vary a lot. Let's take a look. I don't think I'm going to do any better than that. So I'm going to get a plate. It might very well be that the hardest part about making a grilled cheese sandwich is waiting for it to cool. So what I do is cut it in half like this. The reason I'm cutting across the sandwich instead of across the corners is that it makes a more bite-sized bacon when you're eating a sandwich. Probably one sandwich not going to be enough, folks. So feel free to make as many sandwiches as you want. That's what I'm going to do. Our next recipe is going to be chicken and rice. It sounds pretty simple, and it is. It's not as bland as it sounds, though. The ingredients are going to be a 12.5 ounce can of chicken, and the secret ingredient, not really a secret, I'm not using just plain rice. I'm using this Knorr cheddar broccoli rice, which has a really good flavor about it. And then just a little bit of lemon pepper. Trust me, it doesn't take a 2-pound container like this. All right, so we're going to start with 2 cups of water and broth. And there's almost a cup of broth inside of the can, so we're not going to waste that, and we're also not going to have to dispose of it because we're going to use it to cook with. So I'm going to finish this cup on up with water. And then I'm going to add another cup of water to that. And turn the stove on low heat to bring that liquid to a boil. I've intentionally not edited out any of the cooking time. I hope that you will probably fast forward through times when I'm waiting for a pot to come to a boil. But I wanted you to be able to at least do the math, see how many minutes it takes to prepare the whole meal, so that you know how much time to allow. So not a lot of preparation to do for this one. I mean, it's basically you boil the rice, you boil the water, you add the chicken, you add the rice, and that's it. So this may seem like a long time, but it's not any longer than any of the other rice that we have used in the recipes. There's just not a lot of additional prep work or ingredients that are needed. It's very simple. I'm fighting the temptation to turn the heat up to make it boil faster. If you think it's boring for you, it's even more boring for me. Can do a little bit of work on this chicken, kind of breaking up the chunks a little bit. This recipe sounds kind of bland, but this cheddar broccoli rice really adds a lot of flavor. And honestly, this Knorr rice sides, they also make pasta sides, and the price is really reasonable for them. This one thing that kind of drew me to these Knorr products was that they add some bulk and some calories, but they don't add a lot of price, and they're very easily prepared and don't take a lot of time, and also don't take up a lot of space to store the ingredients, to store these packages of rice. It's they really stack together pretty efficiently, as opposed to a package that's not flat like this. You get a package that's flat like this, and you can, what I usually do is just put them back to back, kind of like books on a shelf, and they don't take up a lot of room for the amount of food value that they add. I think using the broth in the recipe too also helps the water to come to a boil more quickly, because it's probably quite a bit of salt oops, and gravity in this canned chicken. Although I don't even see a sodium content on this, so maybe there's not a lot of salt. All right, we're come to a boil now. So we're gonna add our rice. And then we're going to wait for that, for the rice to absorb that water before we put the chicken in. By the way, this recipe would work just as well without the lemon pepper. I use lemon pepper a lot here at home in different things that I cook, so I think it adds a little bit of kind of a spicy taste, but this cheddar broccoli rice is good without anything being added to it. the chicken in now. You want to add the chicken just a little bit before the rice is completely done. That way the flavors have a chance to blend together. And I think I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat off, but leave the pan on the stove to finish using up all the heat from the stove. And then I'm going to add just a little bit lemon pepper. Just a sprinkle, you might say. I don't know if you can see that or not, but just a light coating on top. All right, that looks finished. Didn't take very long to make that at all. So, hope you enjoy that. Next recipe is what I call cheesy mashed potatoes and ham. This will be one of the simplest recipes you'll ever make if you choose to make it. And one of the quickest. Also one of the tastiest. I really like this one. So our ingredients are Idahoan 4-cheese instant potatoes. Don't necessarily have to use this brand or this particular 4-cheese variety, but I really like it a lot. Next ingredient is Hormel canned ham. Walmart makes the same type thing. It can be a little hard to find. During the pandemic, it was really hard to find. So you can actually buy this on Amazon. And I bought a bunch of it during the pandemic because it was hard to find. And so now I got about 50 cans of this ham on hand from where I bought more than I actually probably needed. That's also why I bought this big old bag of cheese today, because I'm going to be eating instant potatoes for a while. All right, so we're going to start out with 2 cups of water. And we'll let that come to a boil slowly to conserve butane. But while that is coming to a boil, I'm going to go ahead and open this can of ham. should have put this broth in the pan to start with. There's not a lot, but again, you want to consume it, not throw it away, where it can smell up your van, take up space in your trash can. All right, and there are two different types. The Walmart variety comes with the ham already chopped up. This Hormel brand is not chopped up yet, so I'm just going to take a knife and while it's still in the can, because that's going to make a lot less mess than like dumping it out on the cutting board or something like that. But you can just take a knife and just cut some lines down through it. We'll turn it 90 degrees. Do the same thing again. So if you've been counting, you'll find that I've given you 7 different recipes, 7 days in a week, and you can, if you decide to use any of them, you can decide the order that works best for you. There actually is some logic to the order that you do make these recipes in, and one of those logical things to manage is, if you remember, we made our chicken and rice recipe. Okay, we got this big can that we can't cut the bottom out of to squish it down, and we can't do that with this canned ham can either. But if you make this recipe and then you follow it with this recipe, you'll find that in your trash can, this can will fit inside this can very nicely. It's a pretty nice fit there. So just a little tip that might help you to be able to taking out your trash for a day or two. Water is starting to get warm. Speaking of warm, if you're parked in an asphalt parking lot and it's 95 degrees inside your van, and you know that if you turn on this butane stove, it is just going to heat up your van, you can actually make this recipe with cold water. And it's not too bad, actually. I did this one time when I was coming through Iowa, and I mean, there was no shade anywhere. It was hot. I thought about taking the butane stove over to a picnic table, but when I started taking stuff over to the picnic table, flies started swarming me, so had to decide if which was worse, the heat in the van or the flies that were actually biting me. So I kind of decided to meet in the middle, and I just made the mashed potatoes with cold water instead of hot water. And I thought, well, you know, it's survival mode. This is not going to be very good. But I was amazed that, it was pretty good with cold water, just like it's really good with hot water. The flavors blended together pretty good. The ham didn't really come off, all that greasy tasting, even though it was cold water. Or maybe I was just hot and hungry because I'd waited for like 2 hours later than I normally would eat, hoping that it would cool off a little bit, and it really didn't. All right, our water is starting to boil now. So we're going to add our instant potatoes. This is where the recipe really starts to speed up pretty good. So much, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and turn the butane off. All right, got those mixed up pretty good. And while it's nice and hot, we're going to add our cheese. And let the heat from the mashed potatoes melt that cheese. And of course, when you use cold water, the cheese won't melt like it does with the hot water, but again, the flavors blend together a lot better than I thought they would. All right, and then last but not least, add the ham. And we just mix that up. This is another meal that is pretty filling because of all the starch and the cheese. It's fairly high in protein too if you add as much cheese that I just added. Alright, so that is one of the 7 recipes. I hope you enjoy it. If you do, try it and you like it, leave me a comment in the comments section. And as always, eat it out of the pan to save on water.
So I hope those recipes help you out a little bit. If you're interested in how to make the best peanut butter and jelly sandwich in the world, or how I make breakfast burritos, you can watch my road trip to Mount LeConte video. And I show you how I do both of those things in that video. So this kind of brings a close to this chapter of my life. It's been a lot of fun going through all the journeys that we've gone through together, but it's time to close the door on this chapter of my life. And so stay tuned. The next door should be opening this fall. Thank you very much for watching all the videos that you have watched. I hope that you will still continue to follow the channel. It's going to be different, much different, but hopefully still helpful to some folks. So as always, God bless you for watching, and vaya con Dios.